You know the best part about Incineroar coming to Tera raids? It's probably going to be pretty freaking easy, and also we get to vent our frustrations about VGC destruction at its hands, while at the same time getting a whole bunch of Urban Mystica drops out of it. Thank you, Incineroar. Never change. Hello everyone, and welcome back to some Tera raid counter guides. It's been a while since we've done anything like this, and I think it's time we get back into the swing of things. So for upcoming Tera Dark Incineroar raids, this is actually going to be looking quite easy despite the Destroyer of Worlds VGC Incineroar is known for. This one really isn't going to be that terrifying, I guess. Starting off with what we know Incineroar is going to be having, it is going to be, of course, Tera Dark. And, as always, they will have their hidden abilities. In this case, it is Intimidate. This is going to make your physical attackers generally in a worse position, or at least you would think. There's quite a lot of annoying moves that this Pokemon can have that will disrupt your ability to actually counter out. However, thankfully, there's a lot of ways actually around this even still. It is a fairly bulky Pokemon with a 95 base HP stat, only 115 for its physical attack, and 90 in both defenses. So it's actually good at taking hits all around on top of the, 50 to 30 times HP it will normally have, along with that Tera Shield. For its moves, it's very likely going to be having Darkest Lariat and Flare Blitz as its primary offensive stab options. Since it is going to be a Dark type, it is only going to be weak to Fairy, Bug, and Fighting, with Bug being completely off the table simply because it is a Fire type naturally. And as a way of countering Fairy types, I think it's likely it's going to be having Iron Head and Acrobatics to counter Fairy and Fighting respectively. It also gets access to Earthquake. This is something that can be used against Iron Hands, as I think we're all leaning on Iron Hands being a little bit of a good thing, but Incineroar also learns Scorching Sands and, even worse, Burning Jealousy. These are two things that can heavily punish your ability to boost up stats. So, something to keep in mind either with Lumberries or Misty Terrain in effect. Another little annoying thing that Incineroar actually has is the move Taunt, and worse, Snarl. So this actually means it can debuff you on both ends. Physical attack debuff from Intimidate and Burns, as well as Snarl for destroying your special attackers. Taunt also is a very good way of shutting down your ways of boosting up with things like Belly Drum, Swords Dance, Nasty Plot, or any moves like that. So, just some things to keep in mind. So before we get on to the counters, don't forget to subscribe for more. Comment your thoughts below, and who do you think is going to be the best counter to take down this Wrestler Cat with? And if you haven't done so, go check out our secondary channel, linked in the description below, Max Allo. We cover Godzilla-related videos over there. However, we are going to be branching out into some more movies and other discussion series. Always happy to hear ideas you'd like to go over for videos over there. And on this end, we stream every single day, hunting in Dynamax Adventures for Shinies and even other things. We're going to be bringing variety content back as well, soon enough. So as for our first options, it's not Iron Hands or Azumarill for your best pick with the starting lineup. That is actually going to be Alchemy. It gets an amazing move in Decorate. Also, its natural ability of Aroma Veil prevents Taunt from blocking you from using any of your status moves. This is a very, very good thing to have, and you won't need to put something like a Mental Herb on your allies, since a Mental Herb will only be a one-time, one-and-done usage. This prevents you permanently. Decorate also keeps you from being able to boost up your allies, and it's naturally being a Fairy type can set up Misty Terrain to prevent burns. All around, it is an ideal support Pokemon, and actually does have at least a decent amount of damage on its own, as well as being able to keep your allies' HP topped off with Life Dew. You're going to want to invest in physical defense and HP for this thing, because again, not the greatest damage output, but it can do enough. Next up is, you know it, you love it, it's Harama. Harama is great for two reasons. Either it can go Thick Fat, which reduces damage from Fire-type moves, or you can go Guts, which means if this thing burns you, you can actually punish it. It also gets access to the amazing Belly Drum to set up for damage and a Drain Punch combo we all know and love. It's a little bit of a better version of Iron Hands in some ways, since it won't actually be weak to any ground-type moves, and again, with Guts, it can really do a lot of damage. Actually, even more than Iron Hands, since again, you don't need to worry about that burn. You can just use it to your advantage. Though, again, we'll need to keep in mind, Acrobatics, however, shouldn't really be that bad, since Incineroar is not really offensively invested and is nowhere near as powerful offensive-wise as other starters. Up next, it is Wigglytuff. Yes, a very surprising option. This is a Pokemon that you already know is going to be a +2, because Wigglytuff's natural ability is competitive. This is a special version of Defiant, giving you a default +2, since, again, this thing's got natural Intimidate. It also works well considering if Incineroar has Snarl, that is going to further give you more and more boosts. You will only get a +1 functionally because it's a +2, but Snarl debuffs you 1. However, that's still free real estate for damage boosting on top of a resistance to Dark. You are very bulky naturally because it's, again, got a huge HP stat and you can invest fully in your physical defense. Dazzling Gleam, any fairy moves, they just go ham on this thing. And you don't need to worry about getting burnt, because again, you're not a physical attacker. Burn is not really going to be too damaging. Shell Bell for basically every single one of these Pokemon is going to be mandatory, because Shell Bell is indeed the best thing, unless you're not going with an Alchemy support, in which case you may want access to that Mental Herb on your Belly Drum setup users. Third up, we've got Gapos, Galarian Zapdos, the Destroyer we know and love. It may not have access to Drain Punch, unlike most fighting types. What it does have access to is Defiant and Thunderous Kick. This means, again, you get a +1 purely from that Intimidate, and if it has any moves like Snarl, that'll just give you +2s. So again, bit of a trade-off between competitive and Defiant. On top of Thunderous Kick, this will always debuff the physical defense of Incineroar by 1 without fail. This means you can actually support your allies in addition to doing a lot of damage, and you have Shell Bell there to constantly restore your own HP. On top of just picking up other moves, things like Close Combat for just big brute force nuke damage. As well as you are immune to any of those ground type moves if it will have them. Though, yes, Gapos is not the bulkiest thing in the world, and it will not enjoy taking hits from something like Acrobatics, and its HP restoration is a little bit slower compared to the Drain Punch users. However, that can often be made up for by the fact that it is always debuffing this thing. In a similar vein, we've got Annihilate. In some cases, you could say it is better than Gapos because of its access to Drain Punch, similar access to the very powerful Defiant ability. Though it comes with one crucial flaw that none of the other fighting types have, it is neutral to Dark, unlike the others who all resist it. Though once you Terrasilize into fighting, this will be shed. But it is something to note as these will all be Tera Dark boosted moves, and that can definitely hit for some pretty hard damage. So again, kind of high risk, high reward. It's a good Pokemon, would recommend. Alright, now we get into the Iron Hands you all knew and loved was coming. It is Iron Hands. What is there that needs to be said? Belly Drum, Shell Bell, Drain Punch, well, Metronome, or Shell Bell. It goes burr. It's simple, it's effective. The one major flaw point of it is, yes, it is weak to ground, it can be hit by Scorching Sands, and it is not a very fast Pokemon. So, yeah, Incineroar can definitely go before you, and that can definitely spell a little bit of a problem. But all in all, it is Iron Hands. We all have them basically pre-built. And barring Incineroar just taunt spamming, you're gonna be fine. That's also a bit of an issue that some of the others don't have, is they can set up their status moves before Incineroar taunts them. Iron Hands kinda can't. Then we've got Azumarill. We all knew this thing was coming. Again, more or less the same as the Iron Hands, though you will need to keep in mind Play Rough does not always hit. It only is 90% accurate, so you might want to take a little bit of a look more towards Iron Hands. And while it doesn't have the same pure bulk against physical Dark-type moves that Iron Hands does, it does have a better matchup against the Fire-type moves, which may not be as important to some, but I think is worth considering. I would actually recommend putting Tera Blast and Tera Fairy Tera-type on this Pokemon, so that way even if you Terrasilize, you still have a physical Fairy-type move to capitalize on, so you don't need to keep running the gambit. That is Play Rough. A bit of an odd one, we have Anamoros. Now, Anamoros and Malamar actually go hand in hand here. This is a case where you're not going to be wanting Tera Fairy or Tera Fighting, you're going to be wanting Tera Stellar. This is because anytime you use Tera Stellar, Tera Blast, it gives you a stat debuff. And they've got Contrary, which means those debuffs get turned into buffs. Naturally, both of them also do possess Superpower, which is a very strong fighting type physical move, which will boost your stat. Again, also Intimidate will give you a boost. Again, all in all, really not much bad ends there. They also, well, at least Anamoros, does at least resist Dark. Malamar, not so much. So Malamar might be on a little bit of a more worry spot than the others. However, I think it is at least something worth considering. And now we get to the last two offensive options that I think are actually quite interesting to have, and that is Justified users in Terrakion and Gallade. The reason for this is The other justified users are all weak to all three of Virizion, Cobalion, and Lucario. Don't really enjoy going up against that, and I wouldn't really recommend justified Arcanine here because it can't really do much in terms of physical damage. Whereas Gallade and especially Terrakion have very good defensive typings here. Even though Gallade does not have the highest physical defense, it does have a neutrality to fire and, well, at worst, a neutrality to dark. Terrakion, on the other hand, resists both of them. Considering it's very likely that this thing will have access to Snarl, that is going to be a free +1 every single time it uses Snarl, giving you access to very strong physical moves. Gallade, it does get Drain Punch. It also gets access to Sacred Sword if this thing has some sort of defensive boosting option, maybe such as Bulk Up. And both possess close combat for a very strong nuke move. Though it should be noted they will be starting out at -1 compared to the others, where even if something like Harama or Azumarill are starting out at -1, they immediately belly drum up and then they're good to go. Terrakion is going to be a bit of an uphill battle, and the same of Gallade. For your support defenses, we've already been over Alchemy, but another option is Dachsbun, which also does have Aroma Veil, but I recommend on this one you're going to want to go with Well-Baked Body. Again, it is immune to fire moves, these will always give you a +1 to your physical defense, you're immune to being burnt, and Tera Fighting Body Press. Also, it gets access to Charm to continuously debuff Incineroar's physical attack stat, letting you survive hits better and better. All in all, Incineroar looks like a fairly easy Tera adventure battle, and if you haven't done so already, don't forget to subscribe for more, leave a like on the video, and I will see you next time, where we're not going to be doing any of these Incineroar raids on Thursday, because we have to go live earlier than when they drop, but on Friday, we probably will be doing a couple of them, so stop by if you want to join in, it's going to be great.